Yeah, yeah, absolutely. There's such a focus now on, or I guess there's a more prescriptive approach, right? So there's a more prescriptive approach now to kind of post-market surveillance in general, and there's kind of those two aspects, right? There's those proactive and reactive aspects to your post-market that you mentioned. So, in the case that we're getting reports in, what does that require us to do, right? And having to proceduralize that. Who gets notified? How does that notification occur? What does your vigilance reporting look like? All of those things kind of obviously need to be documented. And then there's that proactive approach. And you're right about all those interconnections, right? It's like a web. Everything is connected to each other: risk management, suppliers, R&D, all of those kinds of aspects point to each other. And I think that piece with post-market that's really a through line of a lot of the improvements that we're seeing our clients and folks in industry make is kind of strengthening that piece of what does that web look like. So if I'm getting information in, my CER doesn't just stand alone. That CER needs to go into, PSUR. That needs to be reported to, depending on your risk classification, your classification of your device. Who does that need to be reported to, and when, and with what frequency? All of those things get documented. And so, yeah, again, kind of that infrastructure piece, it's so important to make sure that those connections are really clear, because that's, of course, what, the regulators are looking for, is making sure, okay, you understand these requirements, you've proceduralized them to make sure you're doing the right activities. And then, of course, your records are showing that you're, following your procedures appropriately. And so that gets into kind of like that whole 10,000-foot view, all the way down to, here's the actual documents that we're creating, right? So when we get a report in from the field, how are we determining the vigilance, reporting requirements and things like that? So to me, it feels like that's, gotten a little bit more prescriptive, and we're seeing some more detail around that. I think with the mention of 14971 as well, 14971, I feel like it's kind of pretty well understood by a lot of manufacturers, but I think particularly in the combination product, and Mark, you can speak to this better than I, being drawn in more in terms of those combination products in particular. And we have good flow charts for that we're happy to provide, and things of that nature. But it's really important that kind of the PSUR, the post-market, the risk management, all of that's tied in. And of course, that all that gets, reviewed by management as well, and your responsible parties.
Right. And I think to the point there, around risk management, now it's driven through the total product life cycle or approach. It's not just something as a development activity, or there's a lot more emphasis on the need for the constant feedback loop into your risk management to evaluate signals you're seeing out there in the market and how that's affecting your product, and identifying new risks. And this could even drive, additional activities from post-market clinical follow-ups to other actions that the manufacturer would need to take in regard to the signals, and then that would be that needs to be clearly reflected in your risk management documentation.